The electoral decree pertaining to electoral rules will be finalized by this weekend, and then the draft copy, very much in its final form, will be sent to the Electoral Commission, as you know, who has requested for a copy of it for their input and their review of it. And we've had discussions with the chairman of the commission, and we've said that they would turn it around within a week, and thereafter, upon its finalization, we should then have it gazetted. So the electoral rules will be finalized and indeed gazetted and being put into practice and implementation before the end of the month. So that's the issue pertaining to electoral rules. As you know, that a number of politicians and some of the media organizations have probably been running their comments without much thought regarding what they've been saying pertaining to the electoral rules. Electoral rules, as those of you who are a bit more seasoned would know and who have been through elections, that the electoral decree in fact contains a number of specific guidelines, rules and regulations which we are trying to modernize from what used to exist, and indeed ensure that there is objectivity in terms of the implementation of those rules. So these rules pertain to right from the time the announcement is made. As you know, under the Constitution, His Excellency our President has to announce the election date at least 60 days before the actual election date. And then within 44 days the writ of elections are issued, and then thereafter the nominations of course need to be filed at least 30 days before the actual elections are held. The reason why, as you know, why that is done, obviously as in previous elections you have an objection period, and then of course the elections office must print the ballot papers and various other material pertaining to the list of final list of candidates who will be contesting the elections. So that's the procedure. So the electoral decree will actually specify those rules pertaining to that. It also, for example, will specify the rules pertaining to polling day itself. What should happen on polling day? Scrutineers. What's the conduct of the scrutineers? The certification of the scrutineers. It also then talks about the rules pertaining to voting, and of course the manner in which votes are cast. It also pertains to rules pertaining to the counting of votes. As you know, for example, the counting will take place, as has been announced, wherever the votes are cast, and indeed how shall the votes be counted, the methodology of counting, all of that will be within the electoral decree itself. And of course we want to address issues such as reconciliation. As you know, till today we don't have the reconciliation of the number of ballot papers that were printed, the number of ballot papers that were used, the number of ballot papers that were unused from the 2006 elections. So all those rules need to be surely put into practice and need to be implemented, and they need to be completely transparent in order to have credibility in the process itself. There are other areas, of course, that need to be quite specifically highlighted, things like, for example, when should advertising end? As you know, in some countries the political parties required by law to stop advertising a week before. Some are 24 hours before, some are 48 hours before. And of course the principle behind that is to ensure that the voters are not inundated with a lot of propaganda, if you like, because the bigger political party you are, the more money you have, and the more, of course, propaganda you can, spin out within the last few days before the election. So this is why you have what you call the blackout period. So this decree will also deal with things like the blackout period as to when it should stop. And those matters are being worked through. So fundamentally, this is what the decree will contain. It does not in any way preclude any political party from going out and campaigning now, going out and having the meetings now. As you know, many of them are already holding seminars, etc. So for some of these politicians to come out and say, oh, we will only make a decision once the electoral decree is put in place, is a superfluous statement, because it's got nothing to do with their ability to go out and campaign or make decisions whether they should be in a trade union organization or not. This has got nothing to do with that. This is specific to the actual conduct of the elections themselves. So that's where we are at this stage, and we've already had discussions with the Electoral Commission. We'll be giving it to them at the latest by Sunday evening of the end of this week, and they will then take a week to go through it, and hopefully they can get back to us even less than a week. We can then finalize it and then present it to Cabinet, of course, for Cabinet's approval and then for gazetting.